this Archer Servant will attest to himself, he is not the Robin Hood, but merely a Robin Hood. Whatever his origins, when it comes to Fate Extella Link, this Robin Hood is ready to use his bowgun and tools in order to help you on your path. But what can he do, and how well does he stand out in this cast? Let's go ahead and find out. Robin Hood has a normal attack string of 5 attacks. He will kick, follow this up with a series of kicks, fire off a volley of shots from his arm bowgun, bring his hand down to the ground to summon 3 lines of vines, and then finish with a backflip while firing off a volley of more shots which explode. This is a pretty standard kit of normal attacks for a ranged character, and though the first 2 hits are physical based, the later ones all have some extra range which can help you pick up KOs or targets into a later attack, which is exactly what a good archer should be doing. All in all, this is a serviceable normal string, with my only complaint being that the 3rd attack is quite a bit shorter than the ones around it, something which can make it a pain when you're trying to time out your C4 due to the inconsistent pace. I know this isn't the biggest deal, so let's go ahead and move on to his unique attacks. Robin Hood's C1 heavy attack is one of the few extendable C1s in the game. It is fairly simple, just a big kick from the left, which can then be lengthened to include a follow-up series of kicks. As rhythmic as these moves look, this attack actually has quite the windup when getting started, as well as a pretty short hitbox of where it actually lands. In many other heavy attacks, the hitbox is much bigger than it actually looks, but that's just not the case here. Next up, his C2 is the standard launcher, with this one having him jump into the air along with his targets. From this point you can add in his 3 aerial attacks, which will have him slamming back to the ground on the spot as his finisher. Robin's C3 will have him do a quick spin, shooting a series of arrows in multiple directions around him. With how the shots explode after a short distance, this one is a fantastic area clearer, and a quick way to accumulate many KOs at once. Next up, his C4 serves a similar purpose as the last one, with him firing off more of these exploding shots in a cone shape, before following it up with one big shot forward. On top of this being another fantastic area attack, I really appreciate how the cone damage happens first, buying you space for the follow-up shot or your next move. It might be a simple thing, but at this point I've seen many characters who reverse the order of actions completely, which ends up handicapping their potential in the long run. For his final unique attack, Robin will fire off one big shot that goes further than others, exploding when it hits the ground. This is pretty understated as finishers go, but the significant range of this attack can make it a decent choice once you have already thrown your enemy back, especially if they've landed against a wall, which makes the shot detonate early. Overall, I'd have to say this is a pretty good set of unique attacks. Of these, his C3 and 4 are definitely his best options, and which one you want to use depends entirely on how your enemies are grouped up. Only his C1 stands out as being a bit underwhelming, with a small hitbox that comes out a little bit too slowly for me to really like. As always in this section, we are going to first take a look at each of Robin's active skills before giving build rundowns. 1. Poisoned Arrowhead. Shoot a deadly poison arrow. 2. Attachment Shrapnel. Launch explosive flame grenades. 3. Triple Kick. 3 quick consecutive kicks. 4. Attachment Nerve Round. Launch grenades filled with poisonous gas, stunning enemies. 5. Attachment Catapult Burst. Shoot rapid-fire arrows. Deals extra damage to poison enemies. You can somewhat control the direction of this attack. 6. Faceless King. Become briefly invisible. While invisible, all of your attacks are considered back attacks, and your strikes may inflict poison. And 7. Hunter's Rain. Shoot arrows toward the sky, causing them to rain down around you. Deals extra damage to poisoned enemies. First of all, let me just say the obvious. Poison, poison, poison. As you may have noticed, a lot of Robin's skills either inflict poison or gain extra damage from them, and I believe that you should fully embrace this in order to get the most out of him. Starting out between Poisoned Arrowhead and Faceless King, which both can be used to inflict it, Poisoned Arrowhead is the obvious choice. It has a better cooldown, good range and speed, and it is an archer skill, so you can try to use it to initiate rush attacks as well. Even though it might sound cool to turn invisible, Faceless King does not work at all like you might expect. Sometimes enemies will lose track of you and will not even fight back when you hit them, but at the same time, occasionally they will just see you regardless and continue fighting you, completely wasting your time and chance to deal back damage and inflict poison. Whatever you go with, adding poison to his attacks through additional install skills is very important. Normally, I don't usually talk about these skills because whether or not you want to add damage defense or just crank up the amount of money and XP you get per battle is entirely up to taste, but for Robin, you definitely want as much poison as you can possibly get. Going back to his active skills, to back up all the poison status you'll be inflicting, Attachment Catapult Burst is a great range skill that is hard to to miss with. On top of it also being another one of Robin's archer class skills, again leading to more rush attacks. Personally, I don't recommend Hunter's Reign, Robin's third archer skill, due to its disjointed hitbox that makes it easy to over or undershoot with. If you've seen my other guides, then you know how much I love stun skills, and so to finish off your build, I would say most definitely bring along Attachment Nerve Round. This is a great lead in to one of your archer skills, oftentimes guaranteeing a rush attack, or just inflicting heavy damage with an attack combo, or whatever last attack skill you choose to put in his fourth slot. Personally, I use Triple Kick. With nothing extra to add about his drive skill or Noble Phantasm, let's go ahead and sum up this Robin Hood to see how he places. One of the things that I love about Fate Extella Link is that, even in a cast of 27, there really are no bad characters. Robin was a servant that I actually disliked at first, but in the course of finishing the game and writing this video, I grew to appreciate him a whole lot more. One of the best things you can do with him is to take the time to try out each of his active skills in a safe setting, such as at the beginning of maps before an enemy evades your position. This will allow you to quickly see for yourself which ones you prefer and which ones you're probably not going to get much use out of. If you choose not to do this and just assume whatever choice you use will work, you really will not be taking advantage of how his poison damage synergizes with certain skills, or you might just keep missing as you overshoot your targets. As a result of this, I think it's actually easy to think that Robin is quite lacking, when he actually just requires a little bit more knowledge than the other servants who just need a sword and a target. When you take the time to learn him, as well as probably build up his active skills and install skills, he quickly becomes a versatile fighter who can destroy crowds and lay in serious damage numbers through his many venomous shots. Requiring a little bit more thought doesn't make a character worse, it merely makes them more complicated, but even with him fully figured out, things like his faulty invisibility and the hitbox jankiness of some of his other attack skills make it a bit hard to push him out of the average range. Sometimes I feel like I should clarify that I sum these characters up only to give you an idea of my opinion regarding their general effectiveness when compared to the rest of the cast. And though Robin may not be the best at being stealthy, this mysterious member of history's many Robin Hoods can definitely still surprise you.
You gotta be kidding me.
These dumb bastards ain't getting the message. All right, let's turn up the heat.
Switch incendiaries.
Fire.
And that's how you scatter the roaches.
I'd like to give a special thank you to my top patrons Minute Rice, Henry Gutierrez, and Ignis Isel, as well as everybody else who's currently supporting me on Patreon. Thank you all very much.